This old schoolhouse behind me is the last remaining relic of a town called Kicco, a town which today is home to ghosts of a bygone era. Ghosts from a time when Kicco was a small, thriving boomtown of sorts, full of life and enterprising people. The town's name came from the initials of one of the most successful businesses of the early to mid-1900s, the Kissimmee Island Cattle Company. This town was a way station where weary travelers or traders stopped. Some stayed and established roots. Gradually, yet inevitably, people came to Central Florida, drawn to the promise of the Kissimmee River and the other smaller lakes and rivers, linked together in a shining watery chain across the floodplains of the region. The river and its floodplain are at the head of South Florida's life-giving Kissimmee-Okeechobee Everglades water system. That system is linked to all of South Florida's water. In later years, others came, and soon towns and cities like Kissimmee, Winter Haven, and Orlando began to thrive. Fishing and hunting camps, roadside zoos, hotels and shops began to appear to attract and satisfy the needs of growing numbers of tourists who also saw magic in Central Florida's abundant rivers and lakes. Residents celebrated life in this watery paradise in an annual boatacade. People from all up and down the Kissimmee Valley came together for this annual event. Though some things have changed, people today still gather together each year in a watery procession. Set within an essentially flat valley, the Kissimmee was a river whose character often changed with the seasons. Every summer during the rainy season, torrential storms fill the lakes and rivers of Central Florida. Waterways overflowed their banks, and flooding wasn't unusual. During the dry winter season, the waters receded, and travelers often had to carry their boats across the shallow river bottoms. When very few people lived in Central Florida, the impact of flood and drought in the river's basin was relatively small. But by the late 1940s and into the 1950s, when seasonal storms and hurricanes came, they wrought destruction which could not be ignored. Homes and businesses in some parts of Central Florida were almost destroyed by flooding. Streets in towns and cities were covered by floodwaters. Cattle were stranded on small, isolated islands of high ground. Some of those animals died. In 1947, storms inundated more than 250,000 acres in the Kissimmee River Basin and caused millions of dollars in damage. This kind of widespread devastation from flooding continued into the 1950s and sowed the seeds of a public plea for change.